Madara Uchiha's introduction in the Naruto anime/manga is one of the greatest character introductions in the history of fiction in terms of writing, storytelling, just sheer hype, and also character development. It's such a great introduction that functions to deliver the expectations we've had for this character for such a long time, and it works on so many different levels, it's astonishing. So let's take a look at every single aspect of Madara's first appearance in the Naruto story, at least when we're not talking about flashbacks or statues in the Valley of the End. Now, before Madara even fights against anyone, just by standing there, overlooking the Alliance on top of that rock, many different things are crossing the audience's mind. Madara Uchiha has been hyped up during the entire Naruto Shippuden era, and even before that. The first quote-unquote appearance the character had as a foreshadowing type of situation was in the Valley of the End, in the Naruto vs Sasuke fight in the end of Naruto Part 1, one of the greatest fights in the series, and we just see Madara and Hashirama statues back there, just casually hanging around in one of the coolest locations of the Naruto verse. It didn't mean all that much back in the day, but in hindsight, this was just an amazing choice by Kishimoto. Not only because it's very good for world building and foreshadowing Madara and Hashirama as characters, but also because of what the statues will mean in the final confrontation between Naruto and Sasuke when they do the reconciliation sign with their hands when Naruto and Sasuke's... Well, they don't have their hands, so the statues do it for them. It's very poetic and nice. But this is beside the point. The thing is that Madara was hyped up ever since Naruto Part 1, and in Naruto Shippuden, or post-time skip, Madara Uchiha is mentioned several different times, and every time his name comes up, it's to cite something legendary. Obito, of course, poses as Madara. We think that Madara is the guy in the orange mask for a decent amount of time. His revelation as quote-unquote Madara to Pain and Konan is great, with lightning striking behind him and all that. Obito even declares war as Madara Uchiha. We get a sense that this name, Madara, carries power in of itself, and this is one of the themes in Madara's introduction here. His name is power, because Madara Uchiha is not a common legend in the Naruto verse. He is one of the greatest. So Kishimoto did all this hyping up of Madara during the entire Shippuden era for this specific moment when the character appears. The problem is that the audience expectations as to what Madara would be capable of doing were very high. I mean, that's the problem of showing something you told time and time again was legendary, because the more time you give the audience to imagine what things could be, how powerful and epic characters could be, letting their imagination run wild as you just tease the character saying that he had some legendary feats in the past, then it's gonna be harder and harder to deliver on those expectations to make them topple what the audience was thinking that was gonna happen with a character. And Madara was hyped up for 500 chapters or so there was a lot of time for the audience to build up that hype and anticipation, which in the one hand is great to have your audience very excited to see what's about to happen and hyped up just for seeing Madara on screen, but on the other hand, it can be very disappointing if it doesn't deliver. I mean, can you imagine the disappointment in the Naruto fandom if the Madara reveal and the subsequent development the character had didn't deliver? After years of preparation for what? Nothing. Of course, this kind of happens in the end when Madara gets stabbed in the back by Black Zetsu, but this is beside the point. We're talking about Madara's introduction here, which was perfect. Now, besides the hype, there's something else that was in the audience's mind before Madara even fought against the Alliance, and that was the fact that the man behind the mask, Toby, quote-unquote, was not Madara, he was somebody else. Seeing Edo Tensei Madara showing up in the war was confirmation that, yeah, the man in the mask, well, we don't know who he is. This is even talked about in universe. Naruto and Temari ask the Tsuchikage, hey, you worked with the Akatsuki in the past, do you have any idea of who that might be? And Onoki just doesn't know, because nobody really did. So Madara's arrival here ramps up the tension, mystery, and the stakes for the entire story because, yeah, we no longer know what's behind the mask. It could be anyone. I mean, a lot of people were very much certain it was Obito all along, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So this builds up the hype for the upcoming confrontation even more because all of a sudden, the guy behind the mask was just an imposter posing as Madara Uchiha, and he was already pretty powerful, but what can the real deal do here? What is Madara, this legendary godlike shinobi, going to do against the Alliance? And what ensues here is one of the best examples of escalation during a fight. Every time you think Madara Uchiha has outdone himself and done something completely impossible, something out of the imagination, of the scope of the universe, he topples himself next. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we have to differentiate the manga from the anime in this situation. Both reveals are great, and the story itself is pretty much the same. However, the anime adds a couple of very cool scenes of Madara just taking on the entire alliance in taijutsu. He does the same thing in the manga as well. He takes on a lot of people in taijutsu combat, but in the anime they do it more, and it looks great because the animation is gorgeous, and hand-to-hand animation, when done well, is always welcome. So in the anime, Madara jumps down and faces the entire alliance in taijutsu combat, which is pretty insane. We never really see this before or even after. One character taking on an entire army on screen. This is something kind of unheard of in Naruto, and to be fair, in most anime, like one character versus a lot of opponents, that's fine, but against an entire army, that's pretty insane. It just shows how much more powerful this guy is. He is completely above the level you're expecting from even a powerful antagonist. Then Madara Uchiha does something that's also pretty insane. Fire style Majestic Destroyer Flame, or Katon Goka Mikyak. Now in the manga he actually opens the fight with that jutsu, but in the anime it happens after his exchange of taijutsu with the entire alliance. But regardless, the effect is the same here. It actually looks better in the anime. This is one of the rare episodes where the Naruto anime looks better than the manga, and it's actually an improvement upon the source material. But you've never really seen a fire style jutsu of that scale before. Madara spits the entire fourth layer of hell worth of fire and flame towards the alliance, and it looks absolutely menacing. The only thing that comes close to that fire style jutsu was Jiraiya's fire style with Gamabunta in the fight against Orochimaru, the three-way deadlock. That was a pretty big fire style, but it was Jiraiya and Gamabunta combining their powers together, and this is only Madara, and he's casually doing it. He weaves one hand sign, just a horse sign, and that's it. He spits fire like we've never seen before, and it's completely insane. Escalation. First, taijutsu exchange against the entire alliance. Second, greatest fire style attack we've ever seen. It's so powerful, in fact, that a battalion of water style users from the Mist Village have to combine their powers and use the water wall to stalemate Madara's jutsus. Water style obviously being strong against fire style, and even still they needed a battalion of water style specialists to counter Madara's jutsu. And just think for a second about Madara's perspective here. Just put yourself in his shoes. You were brought back via Ero Tensei, a jutsu that you know about, but that wasn't your plan. Madara is trying to figure out what the hell is actually going on and why exactly he is in this situation. Now Kabuto does come along in Mu's body to explain a little bit of what's happening to Madara. He even says, I'm on your side, you know, I know about the plan a little bit, not exactly in detail, but I'm on your side, Madara, don't worry, just, you know, wipe out the alliance for me real quick. But Madara obviously doesn't really trust Kabuto here. He's fighting the alliance kinda to get information from Kabuto, and because it's pretty obvious that he should be dealing with them, as they're obviously going to be the enemy in this situation, regardless whether the plan worked or not, or if the plan was imperfect and Madara wasn't brought back via Rinne-tensei. So after Madara uses the fire style and is stalemated by dozens upon dozens of water style users, he re-engages the Alliance in taijutsu, and I mean, it's still complete mayhem. Luckily for them, Gaara regains a bit of his chakra, and also Onoki. They start to help out with the situation, and well, they use a very cool combo here. Gaara starts to defend the Alliance with his sand attacks, as Madara was slashing at them with the sword that he stole from somebody in the Alliance itself, and starts to chase down Madara with his sand. The Tsuchikage then raises the ground underneath Madara so that Naruto can hit him with a massive Rasengan. That's a pretty cool combo from the Kazekage, the Tsuchikage, and the future Hokage, and you see that this is a pretty damn big deal, because it's two literal Kages in the universe fighting against this guy, as well as the main character, which will be Hokage later in the story. And Madara is just pretty casual about the entire thing. He activates his Susanoo ribcage to tank the Rasengan attack, and negates what the Alliance was trying to pull against him. Once more, we see the escalation as Madara brings up his Susanoo, activating his Mangekyou Sharingan. So we've come from taijutsu against the entire Alliance, a massive fire style jutsu, and then the Mangekyou Sharingan and the Susanoo here. Madara absolutely wreaks havoc with his Susanoo, wasting several ninjas in the Alliance as Naruto is charging his Sage mode so he can use the Rasen Shuriken against Madara. And in here we get to see another combo that Onoki, Gaara, and Naruto pull. Onoki makes the sand around themselves, and also Gaara's sand lighter so that it gets faster and Gaara can use it with more agility. Gaara then uses the sand underneath Madara's feet to pull him out of the Susanoo, something that is very clever because you can't really attack it from the outside. It's just going to tank the attacks, but from the inside, I can pull him outside of the Susanoo. And then Naruto tosses the Rasen Shuriken at Madara. And it's just interesting to see that Madara is pretty unfazed with the entire situation. When he is inside of the Susanoo, he has his arms crossed, and when Gaara drags him out of it with his sand, he's just like, oh, that's a very interesting strategy. And Naruto tosses the Rasen Shuriken, and we're like, okay, this worked. This definitely worked, right? I mean, Rasen Shuriken's pretty strong. I don't see Madara tanking that. They're gonna get a pretty good shot at him now, because it's gonna be very weakened. But no, the situation keeps on escalating as Madara activates his Rinnegan and absorbs the entire thing like nothing's really happened to him. Sure, Madara acknowledges Naruto's Rasen Shuriken as having a lot of energy, but overall he seems pretty much unfazed. This is a rather shocking revelation. Naruto looks at Madara and was like, wait a minute, what? Why do you have a Rinnegan? I don't understand. What the hell is going on? And meanwhile, Tsunade is talking to the other heads of the Alliance, and she says, well, it doesn't matter who the man behind the mask was. He used Madara's name to essentially enter in this war against us, and now the real Madara is here. But we fall for his quote-unquote trap because Madara's name is power in of itself. It carries this massive weight, which is something we're experiencing hands-on in the battlefield as Naruto, Onoki, Gaara, and the rest of the 4th Battalion are struggling a lot to fight against this guy. Every time it feels like, oh, I got him! No, actually he has something else to deal with you. This time it was the Rinnegan, and then we get some more interesting revelations about the Naruto verse. We find out that the Rinnegan is a natural evolution of the Sharingan, and that Madara actually didn't die in the fight against Senju Hashirama, the first Hokage back in the day in the Valley of the End. So this opens up many more mysteries in the verse that are very interesting to explore. So wait, what the hell happened? How do you even awaken the Rinnegan? If Madara didn't die in the fight against Hashirama, then why didn't he do anything afterwards? Why was the imposter doing things for Madara? It makes the audience wonder, and it's good exposition because it's delivered in a very engaging way during a high-stakes battle, and it's about things that we are very interested in universe. It's gripping to read about it. Before the fight even started, Kabuto even told Madara that his Edo Tensei is different, that he brought Madara back beyond his prime, even stronger than he was before. And the reason is very clear now, because Kabuto tells Madara that with the power of the Edo Tensei, the Uchiha and the Senju clan, he was able to create a godlike being, this Madara Uchiha version that's fighting against the Alliance, tapping into the power of the Sage of Six Paths. And then Madara, well, he has one of the coolest lines in the entire series here. I think this could be my favorite quote in the Naruto series when Madara says, "Don't misunderstand. This power is no creation of yours." And then comes even more escalation in what I think is one of the coolest scenes in the Naruto-verse. Our characters look up into the sky, Gaara, Onoki, Temari, and Naruto, and their expression is of pure horror and shock, and you're like, wait, what the hell is happening here? I don't understand. Wait, what's going on? Why is there a shadow around the entire alliance now? What's happening? And then we see what's going on. Madara somehow cast a massive meteor so that it crashes down and destroys the entire alliance. So we've come from Madara's taijutsu against the alliance, an extremely powerful fire style, the Mangekyou with a Susanoo wreaking havoc, then the Rinnegan absorbing Naruto's Rasen Shuriken to a massive meteor that's about to crash down upon the alliance. It just keeps on going. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Every time we think our main characters have an advantage upon Madara, no, actually, you're screwed. And this makes the fight so engaging, the fluctuation of emotions, the victory we think we have when Madara's about to get hit, to the absolute desperation when every single character in the 4th Battalion is about to be wiped out. And this is very interesting because Madara understands the situation very well in not a very long period of time. First, he puts together that, okay, all 5 great nations have banded together in this alliance because the headband in every single shinobi, and they're from different nations, says shinobi, so we should fight against them. And he also understands the advantages he had for having an Edo Tensei body, so yeah, let's absolutely crush every single person here and destroy myself, and also Mu, that's, Kabuto in this moment, because he's using Mu to communicate with Madara, because we're just going to regenerate after that. It doesn't really matter, does it? And this scene is so desperate for the entire 4th Battalion here, because even Naruto Uzumaki, the main character of the series, has to run away. Like Naruto, there's absolutely nothing he can do right now to remedy the situation. I mean, they're going to die, probably. And when Naruto, the main character, especially a character that usually doesn't run away from anything, is running away, then it's serious business. Of course, the Naruto here was a shadow clone, but it was important to have Naruto during Madara's introduction in the story. Maybe if this was the real Naruto, the stakes would be even higher, because we're gonna be like, okay, the main character is going to die, but it wouldn't really have worked for the story Kishimoto was going for, because Naruto had to fight against Obito during Madara's fight against the 5 Kage, which I'm not complaining about. I really like those 2 fights. So in order to stop the massive meteor crashing down upon them, Gaara and Onoki, 2 Kages, have to put their powers together and pull off another really nice combo. This is the 3rd great combo these 2 characters pull. The previous 2 were with Naruto, but it's very nice to see them building this relationship. Gaara and Onoki starts at kind of opposite sides during the 5 Kage summit, when Gaara is this quote-unquote naive character, and Onoki is more battle-hardened and more pragmatic. He's saying things such as, well, banding together will not help us at all, we just have to kill the tail beasts here, because then Madara will never get them for the completion of the Eye of the Moon plan. And Gaara asks him, wait, when did you lose yourselves? What happened with you? Why are you acting like this? We should fight back. Which actually sways Onoki and says, okay, I'm going to join the Alliance. And now these two characters are fighting together in this massive war against extremely powerful opponents. It was great to see them against the Kages before, when they were fighting against Mu, the 4th Kazekage, the 3rd Raikage, and the 2nd Mizukage, but now they're fighting against the peak of power in the universe, and they have to put their powers together in order to stop this meteor from killing thousands upon thousands. And this scene is just so epic. Onoki flies towards the meteor and decreases its weight with his Earth-style jutsu, while trying to stop it with sheer power, as Gaara raises the entire desert worth of sand to stop the meteor, and it keeps on coming as Onoki screams in sheer efforts. Madara recognizes Onoki as he's flying towards the meteor, which implies the two had a history. He says, a flying ninja? Is that the fence-sitter brat from the Stone Village? When they manage to stop the meteor, Madara grins and he is impressed, saying, oh, okay, the fence-sitting brat has actually turned into a pretty good shinobi after all, as the meteor is stopped by the sand and Onoki's sheer willpower. We see the Alliance celebrating, happy that they're not going to die, and then comes probably, I mean, I've said this before, but this line from Madara is just on another level. He just casually looks up towards the Tsuchikage and says, well then, Onoki, what are you going to do about the second one, as a second meteor splits the sky open and crashes down upon the first one, catching everybody off guard. And this is one of the most iconic moments in the entire Naruto series, even though it didn't come when Naruto was beginning, so it's not one of those very classic moments. It still became one of the most iconic moments, one of the most quotable lines in the entire story, and one of the most shocking and memorable pieces of imagery we've seen in the series, with the two meteors on top of each other crashing down upon thousands of ninjas, sending shockwaves throughout the entire world. I mean, there's an earthquake in the Alliance headquarters because of the impact of the meteors. And you're just like looking at that and thinking, okay, they're done. There's nothing they can do. I mean, and they're all dead now. What the hell? How are they going to stop Madara here? It's impossible. So if one meteor wasn't escalation enough, well, they managed to stop the meteor, but Madara just absolutely casually tosses a second one on top of the Alliance. Some people really dislike this scene about Madara because, well, they're not ninjas anymore. They're just tossing meteors all of a sudden. Where's the stealth and the subterfuge that shinobis used to have in Naruto Part 1? But this is a very incorrect notion. I mean, in the first arc of the Naruto series, Zabuza and Kakashi were shoving massive water dragons at each other. There have always been massive, powerful attacks in the Naruto series, and this is just the escalation, the peak of that power. Saw tail beasts wreaking havoc before. When B, for example, was introduced and used his Bijudama, it caused a massive explosion. The same thing can be said about Pain destroying the Leaf Village with a Shinra Tensei. And the power of the tail beast was foreshadowed and, I mean, set up since chapter 1 in the very first page, when they mentioned that tail beasts, more specifically the Nine Tails in this case, was capable of weaving its tails and causing earthquakes, flattening mountains, and stuff like that. Hell, in the Chunin exam, the second arc of the series, the final battle of that arc is a kaiju fight between a massive sand monster and a massive toad that spit balls of water and wind at each other, so it's very much in universe. This is not insane to think about. Madara just so happens to be the peak of power. It's very much implied here that the tail beasts are pretty much negligible if compared to Madara. And we see that later in the Madara vs Hashirama fight, how Hashirama was dealing with the Nine Tails by itself without Madara's aid. There's something profound and legendary about these icons of the past being extremely powerful powerful, being demigods in the verse. It gives the Naruto story a sense of epicness, that the past was something legendary, that the ninjas that fought in the battlefields of ages past were legends, and that our main characters will have to sweat a lot in order to attain those powers and combat Madara Uchiha himself. Onoki, Gaara, and even Naruto's Shadow Clone managed to survive due to different circumstances. Onoki just tanks the meteor attack by sheer durability, which is absolutely insane. Gaara, it makes sense for him to survive because he can use sand shields around himself and protect him. We've seen this time and time again during the series. And Naruto's saved by Dodai's rubber jutsu, so they can have a final confrontation with Madara here after we see the entire landscape absolutely destroyed by the meteor swarm. And we're not done escalating things yet. Even after things have settled down a little bit, after characters have acknowledged what they have to deal with here, the aftermath of Madara's meteors is somewhat calm as characters are just contemplating their doom. They reconvene and they're thinking about something to do. What can we do to deal with this Madara guy? Madara's body regenerates from the Edo Tensei, and he has a brilliant idea. I want to test this jutsu that I think I can perform now. Let's see what it's going to accomplish. He could have just, killed them with any jutsu he had in his arsenal, use his Susanoo, fire style, and whatnot, but now let's test it out. Painting Madara as a character that likes contests. He likes and enjoys the thrill of battle. And even though he yearns for peace, he's a guy that enjoys war, which is contradictory but interesting. It paints him as a hypocrite, which works well for Madara's character development later on. But then he uses something very unexpected. Wood style, and it's an extremely powerful wood style attack, much greater than anything Yamato has ever done, and that the only thing comparable to was Hashirama's own wood style back in the day. And the audience is once more baffled. How on earth does this guy have wood style? And how are our characters going to deal with it? Yet another mystery and yet another escalation. After nuking the battlefield with 2 meteors, we thought, okay, nothing's gonna topple that really. It's too powerful. I mean, it's gonna be insane if it gets more powerful than this. And wood style here is not necessarily more powerful than the meteors, but it's maybe more shocking because, well, Madara's not supposed to have that. This is a very rare type of ability, and, well, sure, some people implanted Hashirama cells in the past and had a mild capability to use wood style, but this is kind of insane. And this is how Madara's introduction essentially ends. It builds up several mysteries that will entice the audience for a long time. It delivers on the promise that Madara was a legendary shinobi of godlike status, and this is very much shown in the fight here. He pulls off things that we've never imagined seeing in the Naruto universe. We get some very interesting teamwork and character development for Gaara, Onoki, and even Naruto, and most importantly, we paint an extremely cohesive picture of what Madara as a person, as a character, what Madara is like. His charisma, his interesting personality, his fighting style. He values strength. He likes a good contest, but he has a purpose, a final goal he'll do everything to achieve. And to topple all that, the imagery and the 2-page spreads that we get throughout Madara's introduction are absolutely gorgeous and menacing to look at. Let me know in the comments below what's your favorite part about his introduction. Also, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, and like the video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Also, watch this other video right here for more interesting Naruto content, and thank you so much for watching.